By and large, market attention has moved on from the US presidential election, despite the fact that some issues remain unresolved. The most obvious of these is, of course, the fact that President Trump refuses to accept the election result, but also two runoffs in Georgia means that the Senate race remains technically open until early January. At this moment in time, the Republicans hold 50 seats, the Democrats 48, so those two seats could be critical in deciding who's going to have control of the Senate, although markets do seem to be anticipating that at least one of these seats will be held by the Republicans, which means that the Democrats will fail to breach that 50 mark and fail in their blue wave. The other, of course, is the US presidential race. Donald Trump refusing to accept the election result. It seemed at one point this week that he'd actually conceded in a tweet when he said that Joe Biden had won, but unfortunately the media got a little bit ahead of itself on this occasion, and Donald Trump did backtrack later on, saying that this was not an acknowledgement of defeat and standing by his assertion that this is not over and that challengers will show him to be the winner. So this looks to drag on for a number of weeks more at least, the hope being that this can be resolved by early December and the transition to either a Biden presidency or a continuation of Donald Trump can begin. So this is going to be the continuing chatter as far as the markets are concerned, but at this moment in time, no real impact on the markets. As I said earlier, the markets have very much moved on. It seems that the gap between the two, which interestingly mirrored that of 2016 when Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton by 306 seats to 232. We've seen the inverse of that this time around with Joe Biden securing the 306 seats to Donald Trump's 232. So that was an interesting development over the course of the election this time around, but it is just, of course, a technicality. It doesn't really have any impact, any bearing on the actual outcome. From a market's perspective, though, as I've said, they have moved on. We did see a decent rally in the week of the election ahead of what followed after. And I think that was just primarily driven by the fact that Joe Biden was winning the presidency, but the Republicans seemingly keeping control of the Senate may have just been the most positive outcome as far as the markets are concerned, given that the expected outcome going into the election was a blue wave. So this maybe just reins in some of the more ambitious policies that Joe Biden and the Democrats were hoping to embark on. So I think from a market's perspective, there was a bit of a sigh of relief the week of the election itself. And of course, this has then been followed by vaccine news. Now, this is why really the focus just isn't on the US presidential election race anymore. For one, I think the view is that despite his best efforts, Donald Trump is not going to be able to overturn the results and the counts that we've seen so far, which means that there seems to be an inevitability at this point that Joe Biden is going to be president on the 20th of January. But then it's also the fact that there is bigger things to worry about as far as these markets are concerned. We're seeing a massive second surge in coronavirus across Europe. We've seen lockdowns across many countries across Europe and restrictions in those that haven't locked down. We're now in the aftermath of the election seeing more restrictions being imposed across the US as well. So the economic consequences of that are more pressing as far as investors are concerned, rather than the disputes over the US election vote. Now, the other thing, of course, is the fact that we've had two vaccine announcements, and that's been very welcome news as far as the market's concerned, coming 1 week after the election itself and really accelerating the rally that we were seeing over the course of the election week. Now, that really accelerated after Pfizer announced a vaccine, and that was followed a week later by Moderna, using the same technology, announcing a vaccine of their own. Pfizer initially saying that their vaccine was more than 90% effective, Moderna then saying it was more than 94% effective, and Pfizer even today saying it's 94-95% effective. So this is extremely encouraging results, and hopefully one of a number of vaccines, or two of a number of vaccines, that we're going to see. So attention very much now moving on from the election. Of course, that can change. That will change when we see the Senate race at the start of January, maybe to a certain extent, if it's deemed that the Democrats could potentially take those two seats, which looks unlikely at this moment in time. But also, if Donald Trump does see some victories in these recounts and in these legal challenges, then perhaps the markets will start to pay a lot more attention. But you have to say that at this moment in time, Donald Trump has a massive job on his hands if he wants to overturn this election. And I think most people would view this now as, especially in the markets, as as being something that's more of a distraction than it is actually something that's going to have a concrete impact as far as the actual result is concerned. So expect there to be a lot more COVID talk now and a little bit less election.